From the halls of assembly, you'll hear us scream and shout. Our love of Indiana is manic and devout. Everything I you we discuss in unique manner. We won't be satisfied until we hang another banner. Us two goofy guys go by names of Ward and Eric, and as you probably know by now, we're Hoosier Hysterics. Hoosier Hysterics. Hoosier Hysterics.
Hello, Ward.
Hello, Eric.
Look, man, I feel like every time we do one of these now, since winning the national championship, it is different. I feel different. I feel compelled to talk about it. I feel compelled to recognize that we are national champions. And I also feel compelled to tell you that I'm still recovering. Like I feel I left a piece of me in Miami is what I'm going to tell you. And it was a piece of my vocal cords. My voice is weaker. My voice is weaker. I feel it. I can't project like I used to, which I'm sure everybody is very happy about.
You had plenty to spare.
I am more than happy that is the case. But before we get into any of that, Ward, let's take care of paying some bills, because we are, as always,
powered by
CommunityCars.com, sponsor of the pod, Hoosier Hysterics. CommunityCars.com, Hoosier Legends talk with Ward and Eric. CommunityCars.com.
I got to tell you a funny story about community cars.
Okay.
One of our listeners, I'm not going to give away his name because I don't know if he would want me to do that quite yet, but he's in the market for a car. So he goes on the Google machine and he texts me via DM on X and says, hey, somebody I can talk to at Community Cars. I'm really interested in getting a car. And I really want to be the next person that you guys talk about as the success story of Community Cars. So now people are buying cars just so that we shout them out on the podcast. If that's not showing an ROI on this investment, I don't know what is.
But yet you don't think he wants his name to be included?
Well, he hasn't bought the car yet. So let's just see how it goes.
Okay. Fingers crossed. You said you left a piece of yourself in Miami. I am still in Miami. My body is here. My spirit and my mind is in Miami. I can't stop. I won't stop consuming the content, recently creating some of the content or remixing it, because I know this is good as it's ever going to get as a sports fan in our lifetime. This is the moment our identity changed forever. It was about these beautiful human beings on the field and in the locker room and on the practice field that did something for all the rest of us. And we did our part too. We showed up. You left a piece of your vocal cords there. So many other people did too. It was such a beautiful moment in time that I do believe it would be a disservice to the 40 plus years of being a sports fan I've invested at this point, and to however much I have left to go, to think I shortchanged myself on reveling in this. Like, this is why we do it. There's the ups, there's the downs, there's the community, there's the podcasts. There's so many great things about being a sports fan besides winning it all. But without that temptation, without that possibility, it loses a lot of its luster and suspense and hope and what binds you together. It loses the drama. And so that we had the most storybook ending of storybook stories ever. I feel if I just went back to being a productive citizen, anything in short of 3 weeks, it would be a disservice to
you'd be insulting the memory of those before you that laid down a sacrifice for Indiana football. Yeah, man. Look, not a day, obviously, but not an hour, and dare I say, not a minute goes by where I don't have at least a fleeting thought of we're national champions in football since it. I mean, definitely not a day, definitely not an hour.
Yeah.
And I do say 99% of minutes, it occurs to me like, oh my God, we're national champions.
Let's play over under. How many times do you think you've said the word or version of national champs, natty, we're the winners, we're the champs. Like basically a verbal declaration of us being the national champions.
I mean, I would have to do some quick math. Like, it's been how many weeks now since the championship? 3?
Just over 2.
Really?
Yeah, because what, it was on February 19th. Was that the date?
January 19th?
Or January 19th will live in infamy.
Okay, so 2.5 weeks, basically.
Yeah.
So that's 7, let's call it 16 days. It's been 16, 17 days. I'm awake for about, 16 of those hours.
Mm-hmm.
And every hour, I've probably said it at least twice.
Really? Twice an hour? You think you've said some version of
on average? On average, because there's some hours where I've said it 50 times. So 16 times 2, that's 32 times 16. What is that? 32 times 16. I mean, no, I was going to say that comes out to probably around 600 or a little less. I'll say 1,000. I'll say 1,000 is the over under.
Wow. I would, for me personally, I would definitely take the under on that. I've thought about how many times, and now that I've edited Fernando's run too, that like how many times have you watched a version, let's say a clip or a compilation of clips of the run? I'm sure I'm over 200 at this point. I might be
I've watched yours 200 times.
Well, yeah, but you're exaggerating. I'm trying to get real numbers.
Okay, I've watched yours 40 times. That's not exaggerating.
Okay.
So extrapolate that out, asshole.
How many times have you cried?
Well, I cried at the beginning a lot, and then it was just kind of like an anthropological study that I was just watching this amazing thing and marveling at it. But then your thing got me to cry.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I'm back to crying now.
By the way, the thing we're talking about, if you haven't seen it, Eric put it out on X. It's a remix of The Run, right? Where it's going to be called.
No,
The
don't
Run.
Call it the remix of The Run.
Sorry, the remix of The Run is coming.
Yes, we put out something called The Run.
The Run, which is, of course, Fernando's run. And there are so many people out there who've done so many great montages, putting it to music. But every time I watch him, I was just like, not quite. It doesn't quite hit the way I want. It's missing the angles. It doesn't quite, have everything. They all had a little bit of this or a lot of that. So this was my attempt to put it all together in a way that really satisfied me and you. And then you put it out into the Twitterverse, and the response has been unbelievable. And it's
crazy, over 200,000 views. I mean, just
in 24 hours. We're right at 24 hours since
right at 24 hours. Yeah, so go check it out. It's on X, it's on YouTube.
It's on YouTube. And all the episodes are on YouTube now. We haven't really been talking about that, but if you're like me, I do love to watch my podcasts on YouTube, even if I don't watch them.
But you're not watching you and me. Like, let's keep that in mind.
If
you were watching you and me, you would not like to watch us.
But I am watching the equivalent of you and me. A lot of other middle-aged white guys talking
who are much better at this than we are.
Yeah, like they're professionals. Like they're
that's what I mean. Yeah.
Yes. So if you want that version of this podcast, it will now be available there every time, because we have a lot of people, especially on Pigs, asking like, when are we going to see the video version? It's very complicated and difficult and tricky and time consuming to put that feed up onto Pigs. So you can just go over to YouTube, see it there, subscribe, like, comment, do all the things, and watch The Run if you like. And look out, in about a week or so, The Run remix will be available.
Did you see the tweet I put out about the commemorative cigars?
I did. How's the response been?
Incredible. So I'm going to share my screen real quick to show this. Here is the tweet I put out. Is that coming through, Ward?
There it is. Yes.
So a company that kind of specializes, they're a boutique cigar company, and they specialize in doing licensed cigars. They do a lot for a bunch of SEC teams. They are doing a commemorative box of cigars. It's 10 Honduran cigars. It's a Toro size for those of you who are cigar smokers. It looks like each one comes in an individualized coffin which is what they call it in the cigar business, candy striped, which is very cool.
It is.
This is the cigar, and then each individual cigar wrapped with the official IU National Champions banner as the cigar band. So called my old man. I'm like, we got to get these cigars. How are we going to get these? So we are going to get a bunch of these cigars. I don't know how many because it's limited edition, but the response online has been great. Like well over 40 people are like, please, how do I buy boxes of this? Amazing. So we're going to order a bunch through my dad's store. It's going to be discounted for Hoosier Hysterics fans. Normal price of these cigars is like $275 a box. We will be selling it for 10% less than that.
Right.
Also, if you buy it through us, no tax, no shipping. Straight from JR Cigars in St. Louis. So as soon as I get that, I'll reach out. But I'm buying a box for myself to have forever that I will never smoke, and one that I will smoke at special occasions. So I'm very excited about that. But Ward, we're going to talk more about football at the end of this.
Yep. And not only later after this segment are we going to talk about it. We're going to talk about it for the rest of our lives. And this
it's a forever moment. It was a forever moment.
And I'll close this segment of football talking about that. We got our 1976. You, me, everybody born too late to remember 1976. We got something, everything, every bit as iconic and memorable as 76. We got our 76.
Wouldn't you say though, like I equate it to us, like you and I'm a little older than you. I'm a year older than you.
Way older.
I remember 87 very well.
I remember 87 well.
81 is
nothing. I got nothing for 81.
Okay, I have this much, but like it's not real. You know what I mean? It's like one of those where it's probably a memory of somebody else's memory.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Or some footage you saw.
Yeah. So, but I was 4 years old. So what I'm thinking is probably 5-6 years old is the like mark when you are old enough to remember something forever, like that this sporting event would be remembered forever, around 5 or 6. So that means if you were born in 1970 through now, so you are 56 years old basically. Everybody 56 years old or younger, which is a huge chunk of Indiana's fan base, we just got our forever moment. Yeah. Everybody that was born before 1970, 56 or 57 years old and older, you still have 76.
Yeah, you have both, you lucky bastards.
Yes, but now we get this one. So it's remarkable. All right, we'll talk more about football in a minute and really dig into the weeds on, instead of looking back 2 weeks, looking a little bit ahead with the best guy in the business to do that. But
I will allow it.
We've been on a pretty big roller coaster ride with the basketball team lately, and it's time to shift the spotlight a little bit back to basketball, where January, they did their part in making January the best month in the history of Indiana athletic fandom ever. I mean, ever. And it really does start with the Purdue game. So let's start there.
Well, I mean, it does start with the Rutgers game.
I know, but you can't even more. That's like an intramural game.
Well, that's fine, but that doesn't mean in years past we would have won that, especially at Rutgers.
With this Rutgers team, we would have, man. They're awful. They're a JV team. They're a JV team. I get what you're saying. I'm being somewhat
I'm just
hyperbolic.
saying we'd lost several games before that, and you could not say like, okay, well, we won a game on the road in the Big Ten. I don't care who it's against. In the last decade, that's never a done deal. Okay. Because I feel like you were feeling equally cocky about going into Minnesota before we went to Minnesota. And so, like, I don't take any Big Ten road games for granted since Bobby Knight retired.
Okay, that is fair. Although I will say the difference is the NIL transfer portal world has just changed, obviously, everything. And Rutgers 4 years ago, when NIL was still getting started and hadn't gone bonkers and the portal hadn't gone bonkers, they were a team that was formidable, especially at Rutgers, and borderline NCAA tournament team many of those years. This team in the net this year is ranked 170th. I mean, it's a bye game. They are different, and the world of NIL has crushed them because they put all their eggs in the basket of Harper and Ace Bailey last year, and they had nothing else for the rest of the team, and they shat the bed. And then this year they decided, well, we can't do that anymore. We don't have that money. And have you seen the articles that have come out about how much debt the Rutgers athletic department is in?
No.
Hundreds of millions of dollars. Yeah, just in the last week. So anyway, let's just, for the purposes of this, talk about the Purdue game. Start there.
I mean, too late. We just spent 5 minutes on Rutgers.
The Purdue game was glorious.
Yep.
I mean, it was incredible. I mean, beating Purdue, beating Braden Smith in the last time that Braden Smith and Trey Kaufman are going to be coming to Indiana and coming to Bloomington, finishing off a career for Braden Smith where he sucked at Indiana every time he came to Bloomington.
And
I love it.
Yeah, I do too. And it's not even, I don't really have that much against Braden or Trey. It just makes me just burn up at the thought of Archie not recruiting either of them.
No, that's not true.
They tried for Trey. They tried for Trey. They did not try for Trey. They did not try for Braden at all. And that's the one that's really killed me. So it is some solace to know at least they couldn't come in our house. And it once again goes to show, you know, whether it's Woody's teams or now DeVries teams, that we have our very best ready to go when the Boilermakers roll into town. It is something special where people are like, rivalry games, throw the records out the window, all those cliches. It's true. It is true when it comes to this rivalry.
It is, and a lot of it is the fan base. Let's just be honest. A lot of it is the fan base. When you have that juice in the building, which there has been no game this year that's come anywhere close to the juice that existed in that building for that day.
And it didn't hurt that we were coming off a national championship in football and the coach and the players were there.
100%. It all mattered, and it rattled Purdue, and they were terrible, and they've been terrible at Indiana 4 of the last 7 games.
It's so good.
Good. Braden Smith and Trey Kaufman-Renn are 3-4 against Indiana in their career.
Yeah. Hey, I mean, 3-5 would be amazing, but to get out of their career at even 500, I think we'd all take that.
Oh, yeah. So it was great. Now, look, at the end of the game, it got a little tricky and we blew a lead and they came back, but we pulled out the win, and it was an absolute, just crucial win for this program. Because look, the bar for this program is simply make the tournament. Like, that is any delusions of grandeur that we had of being a top 15, top 20 team, even a top 25 team consistently, those went out the window a while back.
This season.
That's all I'm talking about.
Yeah.
All that matters for the program this season is make the tournament. Not making the tournament is a failure. Making the tournament is a level of success for this year.
Agreed. And to go back, though, to grab Rutgers and pull it into this conversation is, and obviously we're about to get to UCLA, but it is the idea of one Nick Dorn coming onto the scene and becoming a real option, a real source of firepower on the offensive end, and some size and some athleticism on both ends of the court that has been lacking. So that emergence we've seen it coming even before Rutgers, where he's hitting a high percentage of his shots, but as he's getting more run, as Tatum Connerway's gotten hurt and he's gotten even more playing time for Nick Dorn, you're starting to be like, oh, both the floor and the ceiling of this team is being raised if we've got Dorn, Tucker, and of course Lamar on the court at the same time. Tucker, obviously, there's another conversation to be had in terms of the direction of his game's going. Different, we'll say that. It's different, but you're just starting to see maybe a higher potential coming out of this team than we thought when there was, it was pretty bleak before we went to Rutgers. I would have bet, as a non-betting man, a good amount of money we were not going to make the tournament. Today, I feel slightly different.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think we will make the tournament and we can get into the numbers, but we'll go through the specific games first. So that Purdue game was just coming off the national championship and then running like face first into your biggest rival in the sport that has defined us for the first 130 years of Indiana University's athletic programs. It had the the makings of like a gut punch, like come back to reality.
Yeah, totally.
But it didn't. And the boys, look, I've said this for every game so far. I do believe we play hard. I really do. I believe this team tries and plays hard.
And with passion, like you can see them getting fired up.
Yes, that's not the issue with this team. That isn't. We can talk about roster construction. We can talk about overall talent. We can talk about missed talent evaluations. We can talk about some injuries. Although I don't think the injuries are that big of a deal because I don't think any of those guys were going to be impact players for us. But regardless, we're on the bubble. So winning that Purdue game changes the trajectory of the season. You lose that Purdue game, and it gets very difficult to make the NCAA tournament. But you win it, you get your first quad one win of the season, which is huge. And then the next game is we're coming out to LA, to our home, to see Indiana play at Pauley Pavilion, which I've circled on the calendar since last year.
Since the schedule came out. And, and that was before we knew that the month was going to be bookended with us being at the Rose Bowl on January 1st and then finishing the month at Pauley Pavilion. Obviously, the Rose Bowl is something we will take to our graves of just a sea of Hoosiers overtaking Pasadena and the greater Los Angeles area. And I think because of the incredible month that had been had, there was an air of real optimism, even about basketball, as a result of what we'd all just lived through in the football realm. And then, of course, coming off the Purdue game. Before that Purdue game, I did not expect us to have a good trip out west, particularly at Pauley. But as we all gathered in Westwood Village, where Scott Rappaport and the IU Alumni Association,
shout out to Scott for sure,
and the Hollywood Hoosiers had a great event there, a pregame at Rocco's in Westwood Village. And then it's, great. We're rolling up to Westwood with our families. There's Hoosier red everywhere. We get to a bar that's 90% Hoosiers with a few Bruins smattered in there. And we're like, this has been a month-long party. And for the case of, for those of us in LA, and you and I were lucky enough to go to some of the football games away from LA too, it's just like we're living the dream of a Hoosier sports fan.
Oh, and look, for Hoosier fans, really, it started with the Big Ten championship in December, right? Like that started this run, and then it got kicked into high gear with the event that we put on. Galen and his team put on an event where we took over Pasadena. The Rose Bowl was taken over by us. And you're right. It's just been this like snowball that's just rolling downhill since. And that little get together at Rocco's was awesome. And I have to give a shout out to a guy named Greg Jones. I told him I'd give him a shout out. Greg, it lives in Northern California. He's actually like a politician. Dude's on the board of supervisors. So, if you get a traffic ticket in the county of Tehama up in Northern California, he's your guy. But he told me his story.
Unless you're a Purdue fan, then don't reach out.
Yeah. Join the Navy. Thank you to him for his service. Huge IU fan. His wife, who has married into the IU craziness, and which also has meant marrying into listening to our voices, which I feel terrible for any wife.
There's a lot of collateral damage with this podcast.
A lot. But got to talk to Greg a lot and a bunch of people at Rocco's. And everybody is just in this festive mood. And then great walk over with a bunch of them over to Pauley Pavilion, where you had your wife and your daughter Bo and her friend, and I had Holly and my kids, my daughters Ainsley and Stella, and we were able to get 8 seats together, which is rare for us to be able to have everybody kind of together, and headed over to Pauley Pavilion and took a seat in Pauley, and the first thing I noticed was there's no one here.
Well,
it was so empty.
And we have to say, LA sports fans are a late arriving crowd. Mm-hmm. They really are. And it did get more full as the first half went on, but it was not close to at capacity.
No, Ward. We had good seats at the mid-court line in the main section, and it was so not full that we were able to welcome 8 of our friends who were in worse seats to come just sit in the row in front of us.
Yeah,
better seats than us,
and right next to us.
Yes. So look, they just don't care at UCLA unless you're going to win a championship. They just don't. They don't. And even then, it's like, we'll wait.
Oh, speaking of stories from this game, in particular of the UCLA fans, while they might be fair weather and not particularly enthusiastic, a good friend of ours who will remain anonymous, he went to the bathroom and there were some Bruins in there at the same time taunting him, saying, "Bad day to be wearing red and white. Bad day to be wearing crimson. Yeah, not a good day to be a Hoosier." He's kind of ignoring them. And then he goes to wash his hands and they keep talking. And he's got his AirPods in to kind of block the noise. He used to be in a band, so he's got sensitive hearing. And they're like, "Bad day to have AirPods in, white AirPods, red and white AirPods." And so he takes him out and he goes, "What did you say?" They go, "It's a bad day to be a Hoosier." And he looks at him and it's like 2 or 3 of them all just kind of talking shit around him. And he looks at all of them and he goes, "You guys are a bunch of talky bitches." And they go, what? He goes, "Talky bitches." And they were all so stunned. They just didn't know how to react after that. He wiped his hands and walked out of the bathroom. And I'm like, that's a great way to describe UCLA fans, talky bitches. And as we'll reveal later, also a great way to talk about USC fans. Talky bitches.
So look, here's the deal with that game. I thought we were going to win.
Well,
I thought we were going to win.
Yeah, but you think we're going to win every game, and we
No,
don't
that's
win
not
every
true.
game. So it's not that big a deal when you say, "I thought we were going to win," and then we
That
won.
isn't true.
I'm so prophetic. It's like I just say that every game, and then you'll be right
true.
sometimes.
I don't think we're going to win every game, but I did think we were going to win against UCLA. They were missing Sky Clark, their best defender, their best shooter. I didn't think they had the firepower to keep up with us. But I thought we were going to win the game.
But this is you had the same case laid out for a while. Up to 30 seconds to go, you thought we were going to beat USC.
I know. I was wrong, but I think my reasoning was sound.
Sure,
but great. I wouldn't say that when we played Michigan. I didn't think we were going to beat Michigan. I didn't. I didn't think we're going to. I didn't think we were going to beat Michigan State on the road. I didn't. I did think we would beat Iowa, and I did think we would beat Nebraska. I wasn't sure about because I wasn't sure about they have a lot of firepower. I thought we should have beat Iowa, but that didn't happen either.
You're guessing just like the rest of us.
Of course, we know nothing. We know nothing. So, look, that game was, Ward and I have talked about this off camera. That was the most wild, exciting Indiana basketball game that Ward and I have been to together by far.
But it wasn't for the first half. And that first half,
it was a slog.
It was such a slog that I was afraid it was my daughter's second IU game ever. Her first one was in Las Vegas, watching us getting waxed by Arizona. And I was like, if I had any chance to reel her in, this game is going to put a nail in that coffin. She brought a friend from school who had never been to a college basketball game. I'm like, what a terrible impression we're making for the sport. And then the second half happened. And then Nick Dorn happened. And then, we can get into all the things that happened, including blowing a 10-point lead with under 2 minutes to go happened. All these things that, like the national championship game in basketball, if you don't have a real football, sorry, it's been 39 years since the basketball one. If you don't have a real threat of losing late in the game, it's not that exciting and it's not that memorable. But now this UCLA game is going to be very memorable.
Yeah, it was. Look, this team fights. Like, they don't play perfect. They don't seem to have the ability to put their foot on the neck of a good opponent and just end it. We lack too many things from a talent perspective, I think, to be able to consistently do that.
But I think beyond talent too, it's just like mental fortitude. Like, late in game, making dumb mistakes and stuff like that. It's not just a lack of size or athleticism.
True. That's fair. But the truth is, we ended up hitting enough threes to win that game. And Lamar Wilkerson in the overtimes couldn't be stopped. He drove to the bucket, and it was awesome.
Well, this shows what again, what our ceiling might be on the road. Like UCLA had not lost at home in like 13, 14 games. That was not a game we were supposed to win. And what did it take? It took Nick Dorn's greatest game as a Hoosier. It took Reed Bailey's greatest game as a Hoosier. You know, Tucker's
Yes.
in there getting 10 rebounds again, because now he's turning into this playmaker, role player. And then Lamar, who's sitting back and he's got 14 points near the end of regulation because Nick and Reed have been doing so much work. Well, then as half the team fouls out getting into the overtimes, Lamar's like, guys, I got this. And we've seen him do it before this season. He just takes the team on his shoulders. And in this case, it's not that he needs to drill like 3-3-pointers in quick succession. He's going to become like our combo point guard and take the ball to the rim and finish. And that was another thing we did throughout this game more often than not, that and we haven't been good at it all season, is finishing. Reed was finishing at the rim. Lamar was finishing at the rim down the stretch. And as the result is, we just kept making the plays we needed to make, like IU in the game against Miami. It's like, oh, you're battling, you're going back and forth. The other team's got the momentum. They're coming. You're playing on their home court or their home field. But to your point, they keep battling and just eked out one more play than the other team.
Yeah. You know, the game ends. It was a celebration. It was really fun. For the most part, outside of the talky bitches that you mentioned, I found the UCLA fans to be pretty amenable and friendly, yes. And many came up to me afterwards and said that was a hell of a game. Congrats.
Yeah, I don't think they care enough to be that mean.
No.
There were some guys behind us who, like, when we turned around, they were kind of like taunting us and we taunted them back. And as the game got close, we went back and forth, but it was all in good fun. And there's definitely respect in doing that.
Totally. Now, look, we were fortunate to win that game. We should have closed it out. We didn't. UCLA made some bonehead plays too and missed some big shots that could have clinched the game in overtime, and they didn't. But one thing that, again, reared its head for us in this game that bit us big time in USC the next game was we committed 27 fouls in that game. We gave them 34 free throws. They made 30 of 34 free throws, UCLA. If they don't make 30 free throws, it's not a game. And this has been a problem for us. And obviously we fouled out so many people in that game. It felt like they were going to ask us to play at a certain point. The fouling is a problem. And I do think part of that is just because we don't have enough talent to play defense the right way, but also it is mental breakdowns and reaching and making fouls, committing fouls 94 feet from the basket when they're in the double bonus. It's just stupid. But
I will say, though,
yeah.
We went 31 of 38 from the foul line.
Oh, yeah, no, but
there were lots of fouls to go around.
There were. But I don't follow UCLA every game. I follow Indiana, and fouling is a problem for Indiana. Yeah. This is a problem.
Well, and I do think we said, or at least I said, I don't remember if you had agreed with me, but getting and making free throws and limiting turnovers might be our keys to getting into the tournament. And like for this game in double overtime, only 11 turnovers into double overtime. And obviously that is 82% at the free throw line, making 31 of them. Again, those when those numbers look like that, and the assists were up there too, not as 22, still really good. But no, and those are sort of fundamental things that have been lacking in the last regime, we'll say, of making free throws and limiting turnovers. And it's like, oh, it's amazing. Even when you're limited otherwise with a size or athleticism, those fundamentals are showing up in crucial stretches down stretch. Whatever. That didn't make sense.
Look, we're 12th in the country in free throw percentage. 12th.
I mean, that's crazy.
That's elite. But I will say, this is hilarious. Teams shoot really good free throws against us, which is funny. That's just luck. But free throw rate, we're 264th in the country in preventing free throws. So and that's fouling. That's fouling. And we do that a lot. So
and we know some of that it's because we're limited with our speed, but it's also there. We are still making some dumb fouls, some just bonehead
dumb
fouls. Yeah.
Bonehead reaches, bad positioning, just dumb. So now I feel like after the Purdue game and UCLA game, we are in the tournament. Like we are in the tournament. If the tournament got chosen today, we're in it.
Yes, by all bracketologists, we were at the very least, one of the last 4 in.
Yeah, and I think it would be even better than that. I'm not a bracketologist. I didn't go to school for it, but I feel like we're in good shape. And when you start to look at the schedule, you start to see like, oh, well, there's a real path to like 12 Big Ten wins. Like there really is.
Because just 3 games prior, before the Rutgers game, I looked at that schedule and I'm like, I don't know how we get to 9 wins. But then we beat Purdue and UCLA and suddenly the glass is very half full.
But USC is a critical game. And we were lucky enough to go to this game and we had incredible seats. And it was I went to this one solo. It was a school night, so I couldn't get my kids to go. But Ward brought his daughter Bo and her friend Melania again, which was good luck charms, we thought.
So we thought.
And we head into the Galen Center, which couldn't have been easier. I mean, you could tell like, oh, nobody gives 2 tumbling shits about basketball here. It was like walked right off the street, no wait whatsoever, no line to get in, no line at security. I mean, nothing. It was like going to a random JV game at any high school in the country.
The only lines, which were unbelievably long and slow, were at halftime for concessions and the bathroom because they only had 3 of each.
Yeah, exactly. As you said, it felt like being at a large Wilkinson Hall.
Yeah, it felt like Wilkinson Hall, a little bit bigger and much less enthusiasm. However many IU volleyball fans get packed into Wilkinson, if you transported them into Galen, there might have been half as many, but they would have been twice as loud.
Agreed. Now, the most fun about going to these games that we've gone to, whether it's the football games, well, the most fun of the football games is winning the championship. But beyond that, it's running into all of these Hoosiers that you just don't get to see much. And now there's been like this circuit of people who have traveled for so many of these games. And we are now like seeing the same people at each game. And we just run into them like in the hallways. And it's so much fun. We got to run into our good friend Austin, who we last, I think, saw at the Fan Fest a few years ago when Austin drilled a 3 and the team went crazy. It was great to see Austin. We ran into the Uslands, who my dad was a fraternity brother of Michael Uslan. You've become, and I've become friends with his son, David. You ran into people that you knew from IU when we were students there. It's just a blast to see all these people.
And to your point of being on the circuit, Rose Bowl, Miami, now UCLA and USC, I saw some people I hadn't seen not since college, but just after college, all the way up to people I ran into on Saturday at UCLA. And it's really fun. That community, I guess probably a lot of Hoosiers who live back in Bloomington or Indy or even Chicago get to experience that a lot more often than we do. The fact that the football success has brought that more into our lives, and that the Big Ten Conference existing in Los Angeles with 2 different teams has really brought that into our lives. And I'm so grateful. While this is under the very best of conditions, that we can now look forward to every other year 2 IU basketball games here and an IU football game here, or 2 IU football games here. I'm so happy. I was just telling my kids that I'm like, look, we've lived out here for over 20 years. And the only time we got to touch base with this community was, flying back to Bloomington once or twice a year. But now it's coming to us, at least every other year. And maybe with the Rose Bowl, maybe we're just going to be in the Rose Bowl every year.
So we are riding this high of Hoosier spirit and Hoosier pride as we stroll to our seats. We go to our section. I find the seat. We sit there. And almost the second we get there, a group of Hoosiers who we ran into them in Miami. They come and they want to take a picture. And God bless him, one of the guys knocks over my beautiful, giant, large Coke Zero, which I was so happy to drink. I was so excited. And it just explodes everywhere. I mean, it just drenches me, drenches the seat. And he was great. He bought me a new one. And we're about ready to start the game when a person comes in and says, "I'm sorry, I think you're in my seats." I'm like, "Oh, yeah, we're on the other side of the row. The numbers I get it. We're on the other side.
These mistakes happen when there's so many open seats. You're not too worried about being in the exact right ones.
So you and I walk down to the seats and we sit down, and it's moments before the game starts.
Yes.
And before we even get our asses in the seat, what can only be described as someone who looks like the Unabomber. That's fair, right?
If the Unabomber was 75 and had a huge, disgusting chunk of chewing tobacco in his lower lip.
Yeah. So if the Unabomber was older, uglier, dumber,
meaner. Yes.
Right? Okay. Yes. Meaner than the Unabomber.
Yeah.
So he says, do you guys have seats? You guys have tickets to these seats? You have tickets to these seats? And originally I thought, this is going to be like some fun banter. Like I thought he was just screwing around. But then I realized, oh no, this ass bag was actually trying to call us out because we were Indiana fans, and he didn't want us sitting in better seats than him. So he thought he would get us kicked out of the section.
Yeah, he was like, well, you guys were just down there, and now they're moving you out of there. So now you're just trying to sit here. And then you did something that I loved, where he was like, I want to see your seat. And there's an usher right there. And he's demanding that the usher look at our seats to make sure they're our seats. And you turned to him and you said, I will show him our seats if you show him your seats.
Well, at this point, look, we know the answer to the test. We know we have these seats.
Yes.
So now I just want him to just step in it more and more.
Absolutely.
I want him to think like, of course, these guys are stealing these seats. I want that. So, I'll show you my tickets. And he pulls his tickets out. Of course, he's got tickets. And then I'm just kind of slow playing it a little bit like, oh, yeah, I wonder if these work. And I showed it first to the security guard, and he kind of gave the guy like, they're fine. And then I took my phone and I shoved it in this asshole's face like a centimeter away from his nose and said, can you read that? Can you read that? Now, he's talking shit. His buddy's talking shit to us. We go hard back.
Yeah, because prior to you putting that in his face, as he's sort of fumbling for his phone for his tickets, he kind of turns to his buddy loudly, making sure we're listening. He goes, it's always two. Are these same two assholes that sat in front of us last game? No, it's always two jackasses. It's always two jackasses who are sitting in front of us. And he's
We've
saying
done nothing at this point. Nothing.
Nothing. And he's saying this, looking at right in my face as he's calling me an asshole and a jackass, literally to my face. So I hold, and I'm stunned. And at this point, I'm starting to black out. Right. I'm sure some sort of like cloud just went over my eyes and face. And I just look at him, and it felt like 30 seconds, but I'm sure it was about 2 seconds. I just look at him. I go, I think you're a fuckface.
I hear that. He continues to go. It's such a great line. I asked him if he was born a dick or became one later in life. I did ask him that. And then you and I just kind of said, well, there's going to be a lot of standing during this game.
Yes.
And unfortunately,
if we'd played better, we were going to be standing up the whole time.
Yeah. I mean, look, we don't need to go blow for blow in the game. But the bottom line was they just didn't have it. You said it. Like, it was not our night. And we hit 10 3-pointers. We didn't shoot terrible from three. We were 28%, which, is not great, but it's not going 4 of 30.
Well, and when we're back to not finishing at the rim, it's
but also, Ward, the defense was bad. I mean, USC is not a good basketball team, and they lost their best player, and they scored 80 on us. We did not play good defense. We let Arenas go off. We let guys get wide open shots. And again, we put them on the free throw line in a crazy way. And excuse me.
Oh boy.
I'm losing it. The only good thing, when you look at stats and metrics for USC, the only thing that they do well is get to the free throw line. So if you're Indiana, that's on the scouting report. That's it. Don't let them get to the free throw line. That if we just don't foul them like crazy, it's going to be okay. Well, We send them to the free throw line to the tune of 31 times, and they score 25 out of 31. So it was a shit game. Lamar Wilkerson was the only guy who could do anything. Why don't you take over?
Yeah, you have a drink of water. He was amazing. A buddy I'd ran into there, just a basketball fan, not an IU or USC fan. He was like, "Oh yeah, hey, isn't this your guy?" And he pointed to Connor Enright. I'm like, he's the scrappy guy. He gets under the other team's skin a little bit, but no, you got to look at number 3. He's the guy. And then later, of course, he was like, "Oh my God, that guy is the guy." And Lamar, he again, I would say, besides maybe the 44-point game, that we've never seen him carry the load for the team. We would look up at the Jumbotron and you'd see like Lamar has 26 points and everybody else on the court with him had like 3 or 4 points or like 6 at the most. And Reed went back to, I just think Reed, it's so much mental with Reed in terms of how fired up is he? How confident is he? How much is he feeling it compared to is he in his head and he being tentative? And Sam was having some good moments, but has trouble staying on the court. And Tucker, he ended up going 1 for 8, but you and I felt like he was being hesitant, that he had other looks, but I think that's a little bit of a look inside of his mindset right now too. And then you just could not look past even Lamar. A lot of his misses were coming off the front of the rim. And then also
Dorn couldn't hit water if he fell out of a boat last night. And he's been the best shooter on the team for a month. I mean, he's maybe more. I mean, he's been awesome. Look, we have to hit threes at an elite level. And if we don't, it's really hard for us to win. That said,
10 of 35 ain't it.
That said, we're down 14. You're like, it's over. I'm getting texts from friends, game over. I'm like, it's not. This team isn't good enough to put us away. They aren't.
They were.
They were not good enough to put us away the way you thought. We had the ball. We were down by 2 points with Tatum Conaway on the line, and he could have made a free throw that would have forced them to hit 2 free throws to go up by 3, and we would have had a shot to tie the game at the end of the game. He misses the free throw. We didn't make the play we needed to. We didn't make enough plays throughout the game. We played shit in a game that we should have won, and that's a bad loss.
I'm glad we made it exciting for us as the fan experience to not just go like, watch your turd and get out of there, because it was not a great game to watch, but it had that at the end. We could look back up a few rows at Bo and Melania and see them going nuts. And I'm hugging you at 30 seconds, finally starting to believe again. But as we were leaving and talking to the girls in particular who have not seen much basketball, and they saw that UCLA game, I'm like, but did you notice for how much of this game, until we were really down and it was getting really desperate late in this game, how we just didn't have that much energy and we weren't playing with that much focus or desire or just, the grit you spoke of earlier. Okay. I'm sorry you had to play a double overtime game 2.5 days ago, and you've basically been able to just rest and recover since then in your nice LA hotel room. Like you can't expect to win any road game in the Big Ten unless you are fired up and locked in. I'm not going to say you need to do it for 40 minutes, but you better do it for the better part of 30, 35. You can't do it for 5 or 10. And no matter how bad or injured the other team is, you're not going to win those games.
No, I mean, that is the story of that game. They just didn't have it for enough time. And yet that's how bad USC is, that we still had a chance to tie that game. I mean, we still were in it with less than 30 seconds left in the game. It's a bad loss, but I said to you afterwards, and I'll say it again, we're 6-6 in the Big Ten, and that's who we are. Like, we've played 12 of 20 games of the Big Ten season, and it's a really good indication of who we are this year, and it's a really good indication of where we've been for the better part of the last decade.
Yep.
We're 9-11, we're 11-9, we're 10-10, we're 8-12, one season of 12-8. We're just in this aggressive mediocrity that we've been saddled with since Crean's 2016 Big Ten championship. We just cannot get out of this rut. Granted, you can't fault Darren for what happened before him, but for fans, it's just a lot more of what seems the same, even though the style is very different than what we've seen the last 8 years, for sure. Definitely a more pleasing style, But the result puts us at 6-6 in the Big Ten with no good win to speak of outside of the conference. 2 good wins so far. And now we head home for a Saturday game against Wisconsin at home. That is a massive game because Wisconsin is not very good this year. And look, we've got 6 wins, Ward. There's 8 games left. And you've got Wisconsin, Northwestern, Minnesota, Oregon at home. Those should be 4 wins. So that's 10.
Yep.
And then you've got Michigan State at home, which I think Michigan State is the fraud of the top of the Big Ten. I really do. I don't think they have the firepower. And then you've got Ohio State on the road. So there are 6 wins out there left on the schedule. Then we have Illinois on the road and Purdue on the road, which are very tough games. But I look at the schedule and I still see if this team is clicking, there are 6 wins on the schedule. There is still a path to get to 12-8, which would be a very successful year in year 1 for Darren. It really would.
And this may be a statement about the state of college basketball, certainly beyond that upper tier of the teams are real title contenders and probably going to win their conference or come close, is that being 6-6, this aggressive mediocrity of which you speak that we've gotten so used to, if not able to enjoy, we certainly can't enjoy it. We're like 26th in Torvik. We're like 32nd or 33rd in the net. We're in the like 34 in Ken Palm. Like we're kind of just outside the top 25 by most metrics. And
yeah, but we gamed the metrics this year. We did game them.
That's fine. But I think when in previous years, when we didn't have the kind of systems or schedules to game them, it always sort of proved out at the end of the season. Right. And if we snuck into the tournament, it was a quick exit. And I think as bleak as it feels for me, it's like, one, we win these home games. We take care of business at home. We'll get into the tournament. Okay.
100% agree.
We
100%.
Get into the tournament, still to be determined, but UCLA, I think what that told us is we could put together a game or 2 at a neutral site where we are hitting 3-pointers and there's just enough of these other things going right. We could find ourselves in the Sweet 16. I kind of doubt it. I definitely doubt it, but I think
I would be shocked by that. I don't see that because if we're an 8 or a 9 seed or a 10 seed, you're either playing the number 1 seed in the second round or the number 2 seed in the second round.
But I
don't see how we'd win those games.
That's one game of Lamar and Nick going crazy. I'm not betting on it. I would bet actually quite a bit against it, but we've seen so many teams, little teams you've never heard of,
that's
players
true.
you've never heard of.
Why couldn't we be the Cinderella?
Yeah. That's what because those teams usually do that with hot 3-point shooting.
That's fair. That's fair. I don't think our defense is good enough. I just don't think we play good enough defense to stop a really good offensive team. But look, that's why they play the games. We just got to make the tournament.
And
we have to make the tournament.
Right. And that 1 or 2 seed could get upset before they get to us.
Yeah.
So,
now, I will say this. Lamar Wilkerson was interviewed after the game, and he talked about how, this West Coast trip is hard and fatigue. That really bothers me. I don't like hearing that. I love Lamar. I think Lamar has been Lamar's been the best player on this team. I mean, from moment 1 till now, he had a little, 4 or 5 game stretch where he wasn't shooting it great, but we're not 6-6 in the conference without Lamar Wilkerson. We're not on the bubble without Lamar Wilkerson. So I have nothing against his play. I think he plays hard. And when we need him to drive, he's driven. When we need him to shoot, he shoots. He's been a good playmaker at times as well. So I've got nothing against Lamar Wilkerson as the player. I don't like our players after losing a game blaming it on fatigue. When you are a 22-year-old kid flying private to LA, eating at the best restaurants in Los Angeles, staying at 5-star hotels, being pandered to, not having to worry about going to class, I'm sorry. That fatigue stuff, you do not hear the Michigan Wolverines talking about fatigue going out to the West Coast. You don't hear UConn talking about fatigue on a long road trip. You don't hear
winners don't make excuses.
Yeah, exactly.
They just win. They just figure it out.
That's right. And our culture should be, we don't make freaking excuses. And just because you say, I love when people do this, I'm not making an excuse, but we're fatigued. Well, that's an excuse.
100%.
You don't get to say, I'm not making excuses. And then when you say the excuse, it's erased. No, it's still an excuse.
Yes, agreed.
It is an excuse. It's a conversation that Holly and I have quite often, but I don't need to get into that. Okay, so look, that's basketball. There's still a path to 12 wins. If this team wins 12 games and goes 12-8 in the Big Ten, honestly, they're fighting for a 7-8 seed. I believe that. I believe if you go 12-8 in the Big Ten, which would mean that we probably beat Michigan State at home and beat Ohio State on the road and won the rest of the home games, you've got a legit shot at maybe creeping up to a 7 seed. And that would be an extremely successful year one. You know, all the things we talked about, Ward, about like what Kentucky did last year, what Michigan did, what Louisville did, like outside of Michigan, who went crazy last year. But Kentucky and Louisville, that's the world that they were in, like 6, 7, 8, 9 seeds. Great. If we're able to do that, I think it's a successful season.
100%. And speaking to what is the character of this team, and here we are, we're now in February. If this team is going to come together and get to another level, you know, going back to playing Croatia twice in the Caribbean, to you know, the Baylor exhibition game where this team would be down by like 20 points and they'd pull together and they'd pull these things off in meaningless games, but it still says something that you have a competitive fire. You don't want to lose even in a meaningless game, and that you guys can pull together and do this. And I do think we have a lot of really good dudes on this team. You hear about Lamar, and it just seems like there's character there and some heart. And you just hope that rather than like, hey, we were tired and that's why we lost to USC, what's really going on, what the real conversation is internally is, this isn't good enough. What we did is not good enough. There is no excuse. And we know we have this in front of us. We know we have 12-8 in front of us and a decent seed and a shot to do something in the tournament if we get in there. I would love to see from this coach, not just for this season, but if you're trying to project where the program's going, I would love to see them finish strong. And it felt like that. And look, we've won 3 out of the last 4, including 2 very big games against tough opponents. So we're not, the sky is not falling after a disappointing performance at the Galen Center. But I hope we're pleasantly surprised in comparison to years past how this team finishes down the stretch.
And I think we're going to find a lot about that on Saturday noon game against Wisconsin. You know, coming off this West Coast trip, losing this game, it should be sour taste in their mouth. They should come out with their hair on fire against Wisconsin, who's not very good, and we can beat them. All right. It's time to get back to football. And when you get back to football, there is only one guy to talk to when it comes to Indiana. He is the Indiana football insider. He is a bad motherfucker. He is Matt Weaver.
Hey guys.
How are you?
I'm okay.
You got to be better than okay.
I know. I've got a bone to pick with Matt. I'm gonna do it publicly. We have not talked to Matt since the championship game. We have not seen him. I texted him, I don't know, a week or so ago, just to say, how are you doing? Like, this, the pinnacle, the dream has happened, and no one can enjoy it more than Matt Weaver. And I said, how are you doing? And his response was, I'm okay. That was your response. I'm okay.
You have to remember, though, I'm in the middle of junior days. I don't have time to enjoy it. I got to do recruiting.
Okay, that's fair. But we're going to get to all that. And we're going to get to looking forward, because that's what this one is about. But we have to take a moment for you to tell us. Just take off the Indiana insider hat for a second. Matt Weaver, you are a national champion fan of the national champion Indiana Hoosiers, who finished a historic 16-0 undefeated season. Indiana football is the program in college football right now. They are the pinnacle. They are the standard. They are the thing that everybody else is saying we want to be like. How are you feeling about that?
Well, I mean, I think it's starting to sink in a little bit, but I mean, I'll be honest, for a while it was surreal. I went out on the field as soon as the game ended down in Miami, and the confetti's coming down, and I did another kind of personal video that I sent to close friends and family and stuff. And it's when I take off my 247, work hat for a couple minutes and become a fan. But yeah, it's incredible. I think it kind of hit me. I was walking in the tunnel underneath, and somehow I didn't know they were filming. I feel kind of bad, but there's a video on Twitter. I go up to Don Fisher, and he's doing an interview with some people, and I go up and I kind of give him a hug, and I told him, congrats, you deserve it, because I mean 53 years. He's seen probably 40 years of crap when it comes to football. I mean,
that's being conservative.
Yeah, there's probably, I think he said in there, I can't remember, maybe around 10, 12 teams or 10, 12 years where they were a bowl team or at least decent. And two of those were obviously the last 2 years. So, I think about people like that. I think about people like Buck Sewer, who's been around the program for a long time. Mark Deal, who's been around the program and loves Indiana football probably more than his own wife. When they win the bucket, I think he kicks her out of bed and he sleeps with it. But I think about those people who've been a part of the program and given so much to it, and they deserve this. They deserve to enjoy it. And it was cool for me, but really, those are the guys that really, really deserve to soak it all in.
All right. I want to say something real quick to just do a quick plug, Ward, and then I'll throw it over to you. We're going to get into looking forward, but if you are not a Pig subscriber, Matt, over the last week, and I believe the most recent one dropped today, has done a look forward to best guess at what the offensive and defensive depth charts are going to look like at Indiana football. And I devoured both of these articles because, it is so hard, even as a football fan, it is just so hard to keep your mind on how many different people there are and what are the tiers and what positions do people play. It's just really difficult with all the comings and goings of transfer. Matt distills it all down to, here are the starters, here are the rotation guys, here are the depth guys, and here are the development guys, and does it for every position group on offense. I think that came out a week ago or so, and defense today. And Matt, I printed them out. They are resources for an Indiana fan. And this is what you get by being a subscriber on Peegs.com, this kind of content. And there's only going to be more and better stuff when it comes to football going forward. So subscribe to Peegs.com if you haven't already to read this stuff. Sorry, Ward, go for it.
No, Eric prepared me, Matt, that we were going to be looking forward on this pod. And I'm fine with that because I think the future is bright and there's nobody I'd rather talk about with it than you. But I don't want to let go of this feeling that's inside ever, really. But
a song.
I'm pretty sure that was a lyric that I quoted that I don't know. How much have you allowed yourself to just go back and look at the highlights or listen to maybe some podcasters you listen to, national guys? How much have you allowed yourself? Because we know Coach Cig turned around 48 hours later and, he was dealing with the portal and he was dealing with retaining his coaches and all that kind of stuff. And you've had to do a lot of that too with your responsibilities. But have you been able to take some moments to go back and just fondly look at and listen to and read from other people about what just happened and revel in this truly once in a lifetime experience?
Yeah, all season, even before the playoff, the thing I always look forward to after the games is when they would put out the highlight package, the IU official Twitter account with Don Fisher doing, they'd use the radio. That's what I love the most. That's what I look forward to. So every, a couple days after the games usually came out a couple days after, that's what I would listen to because, when I was a kid, Don Fisher was like a hero for me because when I was a kid, all the games were on TV. When I was, 35, 40 years ago, the games were on TV, and I lived in Michigan for 4 years. And I think I told you guys this before, but I could get whoa out of Fort Wayne. So I would go sit in my parents' car, and back then you could turn the ignition on the car backwards and the electrics would come on. You could listen to the radio and stuff. And I would sit in the car in a winter coat and bundled up and listen to Don Fisher because he was the voice of my favorite team. And so now, whenever I hear Don's voice, it takes me back. It makes me feel like a kid again. I'm going to games with my dad, or you know what I mean, or I'm listening to him when I'm as a little boy. So those are the things I do. I mean, I'll listen to some other people, but that's the biggest thing. I'll go through the IU Twitter account, look at the highlights. Like the BTN account has done a great job. I think the Hoosiers on BTN or something like that are putting out highlights. So those are the things I've watched. I haven't had a chance to go back and watch the game fully. I actually taped it, the main broadcast, and I also like the one where they have like Gundy and the coaches, and they do like the film breakdown as you're going.
Yeah.
And I want to watch. I just haven't had a chance to. It's a dead period now for a month. So I still got some recruiting stories to do, but I'm going to do that here this next month before spring ball comes and recruiting picks back up. I'm going to sit down and watch both of those telecasts, the main one and the film one, because I really enjoy the film one because I like listening to guys, smart football guys, talk about the game as it's going on and what they see as coaches as far as the X's and O's.
Totally.
What outside of the Fernando run, and I'm even going to disqualify the interception by Jamari Sharp, what was your favorite moment of the championship game?
Well, I wrote about McCall Kamara's block punt. That was my story after the game. So, which I thought was an enormous play. And I mean, I'm not trying to, but I told Jared in the press box, because if you watch that, McCall, there was one other time, it might not have been him, but on special teams, and that punter kept doing the rollout to the right, the rugby style, and they came close to blocking it once or twice before. And I told Jared, I said, man, I think they may block a punt. Now, I didn't think it'd be like that right at the goal line, and they get a touchdown of it. Obviously, that was great, but I thought they had a chance. And what was so cool about that play is afterwards they said, but it wasn't even a pump block. He just kind of did it on his own. Like he saw it happen and he went and did it on his own. And, that's what made this team so great. These guys, that's not his normal role. He doesn't normally, rush the punter. He's not normally on special teams. And he sees something like that. They're so well coached. Another thing that was cool, the Jamari Sharp interception. I talked to Rod Ojan, the corners coach, in the locker room afterwards, and I asked about that play, and he said Jamari did it exactly how we taught him. He knew the safety was over the top behind him, so he could stay underneath the receiver. He didn't have to stay locked on the receiver. He could play underneath coverage because he knew he had help behind. And listen, give Miami credit; they played a good game. But I also said if you give Carson Beck enough rope, eventually he's going to hang himself, and that's what he did. And he didn't have to make that throw. That's what's so crazy. They had enough time. They could have won that game, but he forced the throw, and IU did everything they're supposed to do. Jamari played it like he was taught to play. Now, Coach Armstrong did say, I may have to coach him a little bit better about keeping his helmet on after he makes the play, because that was not what you want to see. He tight. He said, they didn't have a whole lot of room for kneeling down, but he was he was obviously happy for him. He said, we're gonna have to talk to Jamari about keep your helmet on till you get to the sideline, then you can do the celebration. But I would say the Kamara, I mean, obviously, maybe the Charlie Becker catches, because those were huge. I mean, they were like the Ohio State catches in the Big Ten title game where he made a couple, just enormous plays when you absolutely had to have, first downs or whatever. So what a great team. I mean, just it's just amazing how this team week in and week out never failed to do their job. Were they always perfect? No, they weren't. But they always found a way to win. And I really think like that, the Oregon game, the Iowa game, the Penn State game, the Ohio State game, that all prepared them for that last, that last quarter in Miami, where it could have gone either way. That front four for Miami was legit, man. Ruben Bain and Messidor are a couple studs. Like, those guys are going to play for a long time in the NFL.
Well, and
they were scary.
It does make the victory so much sweeter, being like, when you think about the 87 Hoosiers beating Derek Coleman and Ronnie Cycli, and like, wow, that we had to take down some monsters to bring home the trophy. And that's how I'll always think about that defensive front. And I think Pat Coogan felt the same way, right? What did he say after the game? Like, oh shit, those guys were insane. And so the fact that we gave up two sacks off the left side. Carter Smith, for the first time all season, hadn't given up a single sack, and there's a couple in that game. It almost just makes the idea that this is a great team with so much heart, like the heart of the champion. It wasn't like, no, we out muscled them, or we had better technique. It was like we had to find other ways to win, and that's part of greatness.
Yeah, that was awesome. And one other cool thing about the Mendoza run, that play, I don't know if you guys do this, I talked to Mike Shanahan in the locker room after. That was the exact same play they ran against Oregon on the 3rd and 10 when they threw the ball to Surratt it was a 2020 game. because in that coverage, if it's man, if it's man, he's supposed to throw. If it's zone, he's supposed to run. Well, they were playing man and zone, so he ran. I think Fernando after the game, he was like, screw it, I'm going to run. And it's got to be in the top 3 or 4 all-time greatest runs in almost any game, but definitely a national championship game.
Well, because I know people will talk Vince Young, right? And that's like that's the walk-off. But I believe he went in untouched. Like,
yeah,
and
I remember that play.
So it's great play call, great execution. But when you factor in the circumstances, fourth quarter, you end up needing those points to win the game. It felt like he won the game, even though there was still more drama to come. And what he physically did, when you look at the way he trucked the linebacker, he spun around and struck like the superhero pose, spun himself back around, did the Superman dive. I don't think you can say there's another run out there that meant more and was more spectacular in the history of college football. Maybe there's one that you could say it's equal to, but I feel like it's second to none.
Yeah, and what was cool, and Shanahan also said he was the run's designed to go left. If you saw Kalon Black was leading ahead of him, and there was a guy coming, and he cut it back, and Coogan had a good block, but Coogan fell down, and his feet kind of went up in the air, and Fernando had to kind of jump over his feet. So you think if he doesn't have the awareness to jump over his feet, and he trips over Coogan, it's probably not only does he not score, obviously, it's probably not a first down. They get the ball back, he jumps over him, he trucks that guy, spins around, and then he does the Superman into the end zone. I mean, it was absolutely, and then I thought really we couldn't see it in the press box, but I saw afterwards on the highlights, he comes over and does the Heisman pose in front of the sideline when he gets over there, which I thought was, it's kind of cool to see because Fernando's such a humble guy, and it's kind of like, dude, sometimes you can be arrogant. It's okay. Be a little cocky. You earned it. Go ahead.
Well, we've also heard
that was kind of cool.
He's dropped some F-bombs, some real ones. Yeah. We've heard that a little bit. The Barstool Sunday conversation that he did was great. And look, we re-released our conversation with him when we interviewed him a year ago when he had just gotten to Bloomington and had just gotten together with the guys. And it's so fun to go back and listen to it because he's talking about Charlie Becker in that interview. He's talking about like the camaraderie that they're building and the connection. I want to transition into starting to talk a little bit about the future. And I want to show you, I'm going to pull up something here to look at. We talked to you about this, that when Indiana had success with Tom Allen, we thought, oh my God, now the recruiting is going to explode. The whole thing's going to change. And it just didn't catch on the way we thought. And when Cig came in, he talked about how he has to live in the portal for the first year. But then the goal is, you take a little bit less the next year, a little bit less the next year. You increase your recruiting and your development. I want to bring up a little chart that I put together. It's nothing fancy, but I do think it shows. Can you guys see this portal? Yep. Okay, so this chart is broken down into portal class rankings, recruit class rankings, and overall rankings. I'm using 247 scores for this. So let's just look at the portal class. In 2024, we were the 30th ranked portal class. That was his first year. He brought in 31 players. And the score, or the points, whatever you give it, was 42.13. The next year, last year, we move up 5 spots in the ranking to 25 with only 23 players. So we went from 31 to 23. Then this year, this last portal season, we are ranked 8th in the country. We go from 23 players down to 17, and it's our best score with fewer players at 46.48. So you see this plan that Cignetti put into place and said he was going to do is happening. 31 players in the first class, 23 in the second, 17 in the third. Look at the recruit class rankings. His first recruiting class, 66th in the country. His second recruiting class, 49th in the country. His third recruiting class, 32nd in the country. And if you look at overall, from 46 to 39 to 21, this is a guy whose plan is actually happening at a crazy rate. I mean, we've never seen recruiting numbers like this at Indiana. Matt, what do you see? Do you just see this guy's master plan is just starting to take off?
Yeah, and I think, they're early and they got 5 commits, but I won't be shocked if the 27 class, I don't know if it'll be top 10, but I think it'll be knocking on the door. I think it'll be in those teens. I really do. And if you get a couple guys, if you can get a Monshon Sales, if you can get maybe a Jalen Brewster, D lineman out of Texas, who's right now committed to Texas Tech, but I've heard will make an official visit to IU. You can get a couple of those other guys, then you're really maybe even getting maybe into that top 10 range. But yeah, it's, and I've always, people are always like, what comes first, the chicken or the egg, or how do you have to win first to get the recruits? Or, well, I mean, you probably got to win first to get the recruits. It's kind of hard to get them now in today's day and age with money being paid. You can maybe get recruits a little bit before you win, but even then there's a limit on that. So and I mean, the reactions from guys, I mean, they had junior days, and they're if you see the pictures, there's a national championship trophy, there's the Big Ten championship trophy, there's the trophy from the bowl game, the Rose Bowl trophy, all these trophies in the background. I mean, when they did that ceremony on the field, that when it was super cold, it was on a Saturday after I mean, it was I'm like, you're gonna have to build another section on the stadium just for the trophies.
Yes.
There's not enough room. So, and when that's a big deal. And then you have the Heisman Trophy. You have Carter Smith won Offensive Line of the Year. I mean, basically, the coaching award has become the Curt Cignetti Award. He's won every single basically coaching award in the last 2 years, or damn near every one. So I mean, and it's more than that, but I mean, those are the tangible things that you can show guys. Before they were selling a dream, a vision, a plan. Now you're selling actual tangible results, and everybody was watching you on that Monday night in Miami. Everybody watched you go 16-0 and put together arguably the greatest season that college football has ever seen. And so, when you bring guys on and they see this, and then they see Mendoza is going to be the number one pick. You could have 2, 3, 4 guys going in the second round, and overall maybe a dozen guys get drafted, which is Indiana has a dozen players in the NFL right now, and a third of them are basically barely on the roster. They're going to double their number of NFL players in one draft class. It's mind-boggling. My Hoosiers in the NFL story next year is actually going to be a little difficult to write and take some time, because it's going to be 20-something guys.
Right. So can I follow up real quick on that chart for a second, Ward? So we're at 17 players in the current transfer portal class, and that's down from 23 and 31. Do you see a world do you think that number is going to continue to get smaller, or at some point you get to the balance of, no, every year you do need a certain number of older transfer portal 1 and 2 year guys? And how close are we to that number, and how close are we to how big the recruiting class will be?
I will just say, because I just heard Cig talk about that this morning on the Urban Meyer podcast, whatever that one is. He said, hey, maybe next year we're down around 14, but he seemed to think he indicated well, we probably won't ever go much lower than that.
Oh, okay. Okay.
But that
is that what your take is? That's interesting.
Yeah. I didn't hear that, but that's about, I've always said to around 12 to 15 would be, once you get the program going and you have the high school foundation underneath you. And the biggest problem they've had these first couple of years, obviously, to rebuild the roster, is you had young guys from high school, and they had a lot of 1 year guys from the portal. So you had this gap in the middle where you just didn't have a lot. So that's why you've had to keep doing the portal. Now these guys from the 24 class, the 25 class, are getting the redshirt freshmen, redshirt sophomores, or maybe some of them are juniors. So now you're starting to build that up a little bit. They were able to bring in a handful of guys that weren't 1 year guys in the portal that they'll have for multiple seasons, or could have for multiple seasons. So that helps. But I've always thought right around 14, 15 guys to kind of fill in those gaps on the roster. And then, it depends on how many seniors have, but probably around 20. You'll probably be around 20 recruits, high school recruits, I would think, most years. So I'm guessing your classes will be around 35 guys. So, which would be ideal. I mean, the best thing to do is bring them in, develop them, and have them for 3 or 4 years. Hopefully, it's hard. You guys, it's hard. It's a very nomadic existence right now in college sports. So it's hard to do that. But I think, if you can keep the majority, and listen, as good as evaluators as they are, football recruiting is so hard. I mean, we talked
Yeah.
about this before. When you go watch basketball recruits, like Rabbi goes and Trevor goes watch AAU, you're seeing, Carlos Boozer against, Darren, well, the guy at Kansas. You're seeing them play against each
Yeah.
other. You
Peterson.
don't
Yeah.
see that. You don't see that in football. And if you do, they're in shorts and a t-shirt. It's not real football. So it's really hard. You can't until you get them on the field. That's why there's such a miss rate. I mean, you'll have 5-star guys who just don't amount to anything, and
Right.
you'll have 2-star guys who become, Kalon Black or whoever it
Or
may
Elijah
be,
Surratt.
or Elijah Surratt, or whoever it may be. They become studs.
Or
it's so
Fernando
hard.
Mendoza.
Or Fernando, exactly. That's the best example ever. So it's just so hard because football is just the development, the physical development is so much later, in their careers a lot of times. So, but yeah, I think around that number, which would be great. I mean, maybe there's a year where you have to go to the portal more for whatever reason. You've had a lot of seniors, you had some attrition you didn't expect, so you have to fill it up. But I think if you could stay around 14, 15, that'd be ideal.
I guess to go back to Eric's chart and the recruiting, and you mentioning high school basketball, we were seeing stuff like Woody getting in with like Montverde, right? This great basketball prep school. And we got Jalen Hood Shafino and Malik Renew. And we're all excited, like, oh, now we've got this avenue to this great prep school. Are you seeing similar things with IU where I don't know, what are those great football factories at the high school level? And is Indiana now having access to them and getting players from those schools on campus the way they weren't even a year ago?
Well, I think in football world it's a little bit different. I think it's more about areas, and obviously it's areas in basketball. But like they're doing a good job. Like they're getting guys out of DC. DC is a loaded area. It's one reason Maryland goes there a lot. A lot of schools go there. Penn State's gone there a lot. Going down in Georgia, they recruit Florida. It's not nearly as hard as it was under Tom Allen because Allen was had the connections down there, and had almost every coach in the state, or I mean on the staff down there. It's more about areas. I mean, Cignetti, I remember sitting in his office, and he said this probably publicly. He wants to draw like a circle, like a 6-hour circle around, Indiana and Bloomington, and try to get most of your guys. And one of his reasons is if you get a guy that grew up closer to here, he's more apt to stick it out if it gets a little bit tough, if it gets a little bit frustrating than a kid who's from along. Now they're still going to recruit those guys. I mean, they're recruiting guys as far away from California, Arizona, all those kind of guys. But if you can get a bulk of your class from the nearby area, you probably got a better chance of keeping them around. If it just gets a little bit, kind of sideways for them, and it's not going exactly how they planned. And to your point about guys, not sticking out, not wanting to wait. There's two examples: Alberto Mendoza. And I don't blame Alberto at all. He wants to play. I don't blame the kid. He's only got 3 more years of college. It's hard to blame him. And Evan Lawrence. Evan Lawrence had not played much, but I really thought he was a future tackle after this season for Indiana. He had 3 more. I think he was a redshirt freshman this year, so same class as Alberto. And I get it. These guys, they want to go play. And in Evan Lawrence's case, he went to San Diego State. It wouldn't shock me if he goes to San Diego State, plays really good for a year or two, and bounces back up. You know what I mean? And, we'll see. Alberto's at a P4 school, but maybe he plays well and goes to an even bigger P4 school in a year or two.
Like
if he
Indiana.
plays well. So, yeah. So, I mean, it's, it's tough. I thought, I mean, I have kids. They're not my sons. I'm not saying they're anywhere near this level, but if they were, and they came to me and they said, "Hey, Dad, this is what I'm thinking," it would, there's a part of me that's like, you made a commitment. You should stick it out. But also, your career span is so short, and most of these guys aren't going to play in the NFL. They're not. So it's tough. I mean,
and it's also money. I mean, Matt.
Yeah, absolutely. It is. Absolutely,
who knows if you'll ever be able to make this kind of money again in your life.
Well, that's why guys are going to the NBA for 3 years and coming back because
there's more money.
Yeah,
no, it's
and
so true. And
look,
Alberto, or the kid that went to San Diego State, I guarantee you they're getting more than Indiana could pay them to not be starters.
Yeah.
So I get it. And football, one injury and it's over. Yeah. And those are very common. So
I got one more follow up on what you're seeing from these guys coming in that are obviously at a higher caliber as far as what the experts are ranking them as and what that's going to mean to the perceived quality of these classes, let's say both in the portal and out of high school. Do you feel like Cignetti could be bringing in even more upper echelon 5-star, 4-star guys, but he is sort of sticking to what has got him here, where maybe he is actually still trying to find some hidden gems because they're a better fit maybe not only schematically, but culturally, because I think the natural concern, if you were looking at Cignetti as a normal human being, would be like, oh, gimme the most expensive fancy toys that everybody covets and thinks is going to be playing on Sundays. But because Cignetti is Cignetti, I can see him being like, I would rather have the dudes that just won me a national championship than the big potentially ego guys who are going to be a pain in my ass if they're not getting the ball as often as they want.
Yeah, and he's not going to. I mean, he'll recruit the big guys, but if they don't fit, I mean, they passed on some guys in the portal who were good because they didn't feel like they were. He didn't feel like they were a good fit. And I had a staff member say, "I think the thing that I love most about Coach Cignetti is he will get up and walk away from the table, no matter how talented the kid is, if he does not think they fit.
Love it.
He will get up and walk away because, and it doesn't mean it's a bad kid. It's just he's not the right fit for Indiana. He may be a great fit for 99 or 150 or whatever it is other schools. It just may be he's just not the right fit for what they're looking for. It's not a an indictment on that player or that person. It's just they don't feel like he's the best fit for what they're looking for. So they took a guy, Jeremiah Jones, their most recent commit, the offensive lineman from Michigan City. He had 3 MAC offers. But he's a big athletic kid. And this is where I think my guess is Cignetti's I've been told he's very, very picky. Like, I mean, Brian Haynes told a story about he went to offer Elijah Hardy when he was at Lakeland High School. Lakeland High School is a big time program in Florida. They win state titles. And he had some injury issues. And Cignetti's like, no, I'm not offering him. And then he goes to Naval Prep Academy. They offer him. And the kid is a beast. Like, he led him in tackles this year as a sophomore, and he's a great player. And my guess is this is where he really leans on Bob Bostat. Now, I'm sure he obviously watches film too, but if Bostat gives him a stamp of approval, I'm guessing that's Cignetti's probably like, okay, if Bostat likes him, I'll take him, because this kid had 3 MAC offers. And most people are like, what? Why are you just won the national championship? And they probably could have got Jeremiah. I mean, if you get a chance to read the story, the kid, it's awesome. He talked, this is a life-changing moment for me. I grew up, even before I played football, I was in love with the Crimson and the Crimson Red Helmets of Indiana. It's always been my school. It's just really, they're really cool quotes. And it's great to see a kid from up there, Michigan City, get to live out his dream and, play. And when you say stuff like it changes my life, this is going to change my life, it's just really cool to see. And I mean, they didn't offer him because he could play football, but that's just part of it. So, they're still going to recruit those guys like that they see something in, they watch the film, and a bunch of other people have offered, but they see something and they do offer. That's not going to change. But the recruiting pool for Indiana has gone from that one you used to fill up when you're a kid, the plastic one, to like an Olympic sized pool now. That's where it's gone for Indiana. So you can go fishing in all ends of the pool, but they're still going to stick to their values. That's never going to change.
All right. So last year, after we went 11-2 and only lost road games to the 2 teams who played in the national championship, we then went into the transfer portal class and brought in guys like Fernando Mendoza and others like Pat Coogan. And we talked to you about this, and it seemed like as good of a season as we had, when you look at it on paper, we looked like we would have more talent overall on the field than we did the year before. And there were some upgrades there, like Mendoza had more tools. Even though Mendoza's numbers were good, but they weren't like bonkers, but they were good. But he had more tools than Curtis Rourke had because of the mobility. But on paper, year 2 of Cignetti looked before the season like it was more talented than year 1 of Cignetti. If you go off the charts, if you go off the portal people that they've brought in for the next year's class, and the recruits that are coming in for 2026, which I get, most recruits don't see the field because the freshmen. But overall, the team that's coming next year is more talented on paper than what we just saw as one of the greatest college teams of all time.
Before this podcast is over, you guys are going to get me to go 12-0 again, aren't you?
I actually am not getting you. I don't even want you to predict the season yet because we got to get through spring ball and all that. But am I wrong?
Right. You're right. I think honestly, the defense that I did when I look back, I went and looked at the stats. Second in the country in points per game, only behind Ohio State. Second in rush defense. fourth overall total defense. Pass defense, they were top 25, which is still pretty good. I think this defense is going to be more talented in 26. Now here's the thing, though. Here's the thing. I mean, AJ Harris is a good player. Say AJ Harris is your starting quarterback next to Sharp. He's a good player. D'Angelo Pons is just the guy is an absolute stud. Yeah. I don't care what his size is. He's a stud. I think Isaiah Jones for Aiden Fisher is, like as far as talent is probably a wash, but Aiden Fisher is an amazing, amazing locker room guy. Like, can you replace those intangibles? I think they can. I think they'll be able to, but we won't know that until we see it. You know what I mean? Until they get out there and do it. But from a talent standpoint, I think the D line is going to be better. I think, it doesn't seem like a big deal. I think getting Caden Turner back is kind of a big deal, just because it gives you a third guy. You don't have to rush some of these younger players. But I think Jaden Williams is going to be a beast. I think he's going to find his way on the field. Last year, they played 3 linebackers, and Brian Haynes said in the press conference, because I wanted to get my 11 best guys on the field, and Isaiah Jones is one of my 11 best guys. I think this year it'll be more 2 linebackers, because you're going to try to get your 11 best guys on the field. And I think whoever plays that rover spot, whether it be Byron Baldwin or Sanks or whoever, I think you're going to want to get those safeties, because their safety position, in my opinion, is stacked. And Byron Baldwin is going to be an absolute beast. I love the kid. I saw him play at Center Grove last year, and I love the kid. He is a heat-seeking missile. You saw it on the kickoffs. We talked about it. I mean, he is a beast, and he is going to be fantastic. So I think this defense has a chance. And then you got all these young guys. They have recruited incredibly well on the D-line. Pat Kuntz and Buda Williams have killed it on the recruiting trail on the D-line. Brian Haynes at linebacker, at all the positions. They've got some young guys. A lot of these guys, a lot of years, I would say would play. Casimir Hicks, DeMonte Timms, I would say, hey, man, these guys got a chance to play. It's going to be hard for them to play because it's so loaded at the positions, but they're really, really talented players. So I think and then offensively, I think the O-line's a wash. Quarterback, I think just calling Mendoza is not fair. I would say he's probably in between Rourke and Mendoza, which is I want
to talk about that for a second, because you have to take off the Heisman Mendoza of it and say, looking where we were a year ago, on paper, Hoover has a lot more success on paper than Mendoza did coming in. Now, it's ridiculous to think he's going to be what Mendoza was, right? Because Mendoza just turned in, maybe the single greatest season of all time outside of Joe Burrow, when he threw for 66 touchdowns or whatever it was. But on paper, what we're getting in Hoover, if you compared it to what you were getting in Mendoza on paper, you wouldn't say one is so much better than the other, would you?
True. Yeah, exactly. And Hoover's a good player. Hoover's a really good player. He's put up a ton of, he's all time. Right now, he's the current yardage leader in college football and touchdown passing leader in college football. He's going to go over 10,000 passing yards in Indiana this year. And I think he'll go over, I think he's at 70-something touchdowns. So he'll probably go over 100 touchdown passes this year, too, which is just an incredible stat. Yeah. He's really good. I love Elijah Surratt, but Nick Marsh, come on, man. Go watch his film. Watch him stop on a dime at 6'3", 203 pounds, spin around and outrun a Michigan DB to the end zone. This dude is freakish. And then, me and Jared did a podcast. I think they've got 2 potential first-round picks on the outside in Becker and Marsh. And listen, I'm Omar Cooper I'm glad he went pro. And when I say that, good for the kid. But if he came back, best receiver room in the country, right? Best top 3 receivers in the country. They're still really good, but it would have been the best. You would have had 3 NFL guys. When did you say this? Like something only Ohio State says,
right?
Yeah. Maybe Bama and Indiana would have had 3 NFL guys starting, and then maybe a guy or 2 behind them would have a shot at the league. So they're loaded. They really are. The one position I'm not concerned about, you wonder, is tight end, just because it's so young and inexperienced. But I will say
going to be my question to you. Where is the one weakness? That's
Brock. I think Brock Schott, he's a rare. This kid could have been a starter at P4 at a DN. He's that freakish of an athlete. I think as a receiver, you may actually be upgraded now, and that's not a knock on Nowakowski or Horton the year before, but this kid's really dynamic. My question is, who takes on that blocking role? Because Riley was so good at, especially on the perimeter, on a lot of those runs that IU busted was because of that perimeter blocking. And it's not just him. Surratt was a beast as a blocker. Who's going to take it? Cooper was a beast as a blocker. So, we've seen it from Becker. And so, but Nick Marsh is going to have to embrace that. You're going to have to embrace it. When you don't get the ball, you still got to go bust your ass on that play. Even though you're not getting the ball thrown to you, you still got to go bust your ass and block somebody. I think they will, because I think the culture is so good and strong. But it's exciting. It really is. It's going to be fun to watch this team, especially in spring ball, develop.
I want to go back to Josh Hoover because one, you can't just look at what happened last year with Mendoza. Mendoza obviously is an extraordinary human being, and he gets all the credit in the world for who he is and the work he put in and the development he made. But Cignetti, going back to 2019, has had a new quarterback every year. And every year that quarterback, up until Rourke, was the conference player of the year, at least on the offensive side of the ball.
And didn't Rourke get
and Rourke only had one leg for the home stretch of
and
that
didn't he
season.
Get Ward? Didn't he get?
He did get an NFL contract. So, and this is a kid coming out of the MAC. So, excuse me. So, I guess when I look at Hoover, and he's just like he gets that ball out so fast and so tight and just so, especially across the middle. He can put his foot in the ground and run up the middle on a QB sneak if he needs to. I just haven't heard that much, and I haven't gone digging about sort of the heart of this kid, the personality of this kid. And I think everybody can look to Fernando. And yes, there's Aiden Fisher and Pat Coogan and all these other great leaders on the team, Pons, who all made everybody else better around them. But of course, your quarterback is going to be somebody everybody looks to. What do you hear or have heard or read about or seen about Josh Hoover as a leader of men and the heart of a champion type of thing?
Well, I think that's something that'll kind of, kind of unfold and evolve as we go along. I mean, when Mendoza came in, I would have never told you that. I mean, I thought he was a high character guy. I never thought he would be what. I mean, this is one of the greatest ambassadors Indiana athletics has ever had in any sport. But he's a 3-year starter at a P4 school where a lot's put on the quarterback. They run an air raid offense down there at TCU, and so a lot was put on his shoulders, and he delivered. Most of the time. I will say when I watched his highlights, I've talked about this before. His O-line wasn't very good. I don't know how much of a running game. I mean, they averaged 3.7 yards last year. I looked it up for their rushing attack. I mean, I think Indiana was probably a yard and a half better than that, if not better. So I think there's gonna be less pressure on him. I think his stats could actually go down a little bit, and he could be a better player. Just because he's not going to have to do as much as he had to do at TCU. He'll have a better rushing attack. He'll have more. Have a lot of weapons. So we'll see. That's going to be an important part. We talked about that with Jared. Mendoza and those guys were not on their own. They developed that chemistry. He's got to develop the chemistry with Marsh, with Becker, with Tyler Morris, with Shaz Preston, with LeBron Bond, Davion Chandler. All these guys, they got to go out and develop this chemistry with the running backs. The guys that are in there. So I mean. I don't think they would have taken him. I will, Coach Cig does his due diligence. He talks to people and gets background, and the coaches do. So, I mean, I think they have a pretty good idea what they're getting with Josh Hoover. And then you watch his film and obviously he's got the arm, he's got the touch. You talk about Ward, he gets it out quick. I really like that he played shortstop in high school and was a high-level baseball player because I think cool. Shortstop is a position. It's the most important position on the baseball field, and you got a lot on you there. So you got to have lateral quickness. You got to have a strong arm, and you see that on tape. He moves better than I think people give him credit for. If you look at his rushing stats, remember sack. We talked about this. I know Eric hates it. Your sack yardage gets counts against your rushing stats. So his sack number or his rushing yards look terrible, but if you watch him run, he reminds me a little bit of the guy you played at Alabama, Ty Simpson. I mentioned this on a podcast for you guys.
Yeah.
I thought Simpson did a pretty good job against IU's defense. Now, when I say that, like they were all over him the whole game, and he had to scramble around and make guys miss. And Hoover's kind of said he's different than Mendoza. Mendoza's more of like put his foot in the ground and get upfield, whereas I think Hoover can kind of like dance around a little bit. Now you don't want him to do that too much, but he's comfortable throwing off platform, getting out of the pocket. His touch is really, really impressive. You watch some of the throws, the go balls on the sideline. I mean, the guy doesn't even have to break stride. It's like right there. Cool. The back shoulder throws. He did a lot of RPO action, which Indiana does a ton of. So I think
he was number 2 in the country, wasn't he? Behind Mendoza.
Yeah. So that's another thing. So and that's a big part of their offense where, you look like he put the ball down, but then you come up and throw it. I mean, Mendoza made a killing on that play. So I think he'll be a seamless fit. It's just how quickly does it pick up the offense and get that chemistry with those guys. But I mean, look, you're throwing to NFL dudes. You're going to have NFL guys blocking for you. You got really good running backs. So, and then you've got, the best coach in college football and arguably the best OC in college football, working with you. And then now the hair's back. Tino,
Yes.
the
So
Hollywood Hair's back. The
I
Hollywood
wanted to
Hair's
ask
back.
you about that. So obviously Chandler Whitmer got a ton of credit for Mendoza's development. And Mendoza, I think, would give Chandler Whitmer a ton of credit for his development. And Cignetti, who I love how honest he is, like if you listen to all of his interviews, you get a lot of information, like real information. Like, for example, he didn't really talk to Fernando all that much during the year. Like that's not what the relationship is. Chandler talks to Fernando, and Mike Shanahan talks to Fernando. And so Chandler deserved a lot of credit. Tino was obviously the guy that Ward just mentioned, all those quarterbacks every year. Tino was the guy since 2019 on those guys. How important is it for that position for Cignetti to have a security blanket back, basically, and not have to learn a relationship with a new guy?
Oh, it's huge because last year during spring ball, I can't remember how far in the spring it was. He thought he wasn't frustrated, but you could tell he hadn't done this in a while. He's like, hey, I'm spending a lot of my time in practice coaching Chandler. And what he means by coaching Chandler, coaching him on, hey, this is what we expect. This is maybe the offense, or this is what I want my quarterback to be able to do. He's not going to have to do that. Tino knows exactly what he expects, what it's supposed to look like. He knows this offense inside and out, and it just made sense to bring him back. It really did. I know it didn't go great for him at UCLA, and obviously I'm sure he made some mistakes. It wasn't a great situation. Deshaun Foster was not ready for that job. That program, I think Chesney will slowly rebuild it, but there's a lot of problems there. They don't have a ton of money, I don't think, to spend. But Tino is a very, very good coach. And guys, Jamison Purcell's dad told me that they love him. They absolutely love Tino. So, awesome. And he sent me a picture of them together. I think it was probably before, when Tino was here before and Jamison was still being recruited by IU. But he said they think he's a great guy. So, and last year when he was here, you could tell it. Guys liked him. He coaches them hard, but he's a player's coach. I think it's a seamless transition. And like I said, maybe other than Ward, he's probably got the best hair around.
There we go.
Well, shots fired. I will say this. The other coach we lost that I was concerned about was the strength and conditioning coach. We lost him to Tennessee. That concerned me. But then I heard the guy we got to replace him, and I'd like to get confirmation or denial from you, is Cig's old strength and conditioning coach from his Elon days. Is that true?
Well, he was. So he was at Washington. His name's Tyson Brown. He was at Washington State. He was the number 2 guy. Cig hired him at Elon. So he came, my guess is he came probably like spring, summertime. And what happened was the number 1 guy at Washington State got an NFL job. So he left. And so Washington State called Tyson Brown and said, hey, do you want to come back and be the head strength coach? So, and he did, which I get it. Washington State, I know it's not the greatest program, but it's a better program than Elon. Elon's an FCS school. You're talking about at that time, it was, they were still, I think it was still Pac-12. So he went back, but he obviously knew him. He trusted him to hire him there. Again, Jamison's dad told me, I said, what were your thoughts on Tyson Brown? And I think the word was, we loved him. Stud was the way he described him. So, obviously, again, the proof will be in the pudding. We'll see when on the field, because Derek Owens did a great job. Indiana suffered. There's nothing you can do about ACLs and stuff like that. But the one thing you try to get away from are the soft tissue injuries. And really, for the most part, Surratt had it this year. But other than that, they didn't really have like the hamstring, those kind of things. They did a great job. And another thing you see is physically at the end of games, Indiana's getting stronger while the other team's getting weaker. And so that'll be the big thing. Listen, any coach who's worth anything will have in his pocket 3 to 4 names for every staff member that he has if he has to replace them. I guarantee you he was way ahead of this. It's a bummer that Owens left, but it is what it is. He went and worked for a guy that he's tight with in Heupel, and Indiana had a good replacement.
Oh, is that what it is? I didn't know that.
I heard that they're tight. They were buddies, because he was making $900,000. They moved him up to 1.2. And listen, $300,000 is nothing to poo for the average person, but like Indiana probably would have matched that.
That was my question. I don't think that we've lost anybody to a lateral move, and this is a lateral move.
I think what I heard is they were together at Central Florida. They became pretty good friends or close. And then maybe there's some other things. Maybe he wants a little bit more say-so in how things are run. I don't know. Maybe he just wants to go out on his own and say, hey, not that he feels like he's a shell, but hey, I it's not just Coach Cig. Like, you know what I mean? So it is what it is. These guys, listen, all these guys have, you guys know it, you're around them. They have big egos. There's nothing wrong with that. They all do. That's how they got to where they're at. I mean, he's 35 years old and he's making 1.2 million as the highest paid strength coach in the country. So, he's obviously been successful. But I think I'm really interested to see Tyson, how this team looks under Tyson Brown. I think they'll be fine. And listen, I don't worry about anything with Cincinnati. And maybe that's, but why?
Yeah,
why would you? I mean, the guy can almost, other than turning water into wine, I think he can pretty much do anything that you ask him to do.
By the way, going back to Deshaun Foster for a second, did you ever see his introductory press conference at UCLA?
Yeah. Well, the other one I saw was
or was it Big Ten Media Day?
Yeah, it was Big Ten Media Day. It was so bad.
Was that the one where he told everybody that UCLA is a school in Los Angeles?
Yeah, it was so. I thought. What it looked like to me, listen, I'm terrified. When I was in high school and college, I was terrified of public speaking. I did everything you're not supposed to do. You guys are probably Ward, you're an actor. But I would look down. I would not make eye contact. I talk too fast, all the things. And that's what it looked like to me. Like he got nervous. And then all of a sudden you start saying dumb shit.
Yeah.
And it doesn't stop. You get diarrhea in the mouth and you're like, somebody just be like, dude, stop talking. Just take questions and stop talking. Yeah.
So true.
Well,
so true.
Did you get to see, I'm blanking on his name, the James Madison coach who just got hired at UCLA and at the UCLA Chesney, yeah. Bob Chesney. He's a good coach. He's a really good coach. Did you see him attempt to do his version of Cignetti firing up the UCLA crowd at the IU basketball game on Saturday?
I saw a little bit of it. You guys were there. So did he go as far as Cignetti and say so-and-so sucks?
No. But he was like, we're going to win the Big Ten championship, and just sort of shooting his shot. And for us to be there and be like, are you kidding me?
But that was what was great for me, is he was doing a really good job getting him fired up. He had good energy, and we're going to build a program we can be proud of. And there's nothing we can't win. And I think everybody that was a Hoosier there is watching him going, oh my God, we're watching another JMU coach, but he's at UCLA. And what's he going to do here? How far is he going to go? And then when he said, and we're going to win a Big Ten championship, then there was a pause, because that's when all the Hoosiers were like, wait a minute. And there was a Hoosiers chant. Yeah. And then there was a battle between the fan bases. And you could tell that he recognized, oh man, this is a weird moment that Indiana is here while I'm doing this. It was a great, fun moment. Look, the bottom line for UCLA is he may be a great coach. Are they going to commit the financial resources to it? They've never done it before. We'll see if they do it.
And not to get off on basketball, but how disappointing is Pauley Pavilion?
Oh, look,
I went there years and years and years. How long ago was Jason Capano?
It's just a building. It's just a building.
And they have all that open area behind the baskets. There's no atmosphere.
Now, they have renovated it probably since you've been there.
Yeah, I'm sure they have. Because, like I said, Dan Monson was coaching at Gonzaga when I went to see a game.
Yeah, they've renovated it, but it's still not great.
And the way you make Pauley Pavilion seem better is 3 nights later, you go to the Galen Center. And then you're like, Pauley Pavilion, not so bad.
But you do hear about Pauley Pavilion spoken about like a historic building. No. It is not in the same universe as Fog Allen or Assembly Hall or Cameron or the Dean Dome. Like, it's not even close to those.
They still have the really good concession stands right outside the door. You can get, like, I got like a nacho thing. It was fantastic. And then you walk in. Okay.
Yeah, where it's outside and inside both. Yes, they still have that. Yeah, they still got that. I tell you who doesn't have good concessions, USC. Bullshit. Nothing. All right. Well, Weaves, you're the man. This is great. Once fall camp happens, we'll get you back on when the schedule is set and we have times and days. Well, and then we are going to get you to go through the schedule and make your predictions.
Okay.
But the headline here is, on paper, this team that Indiana's going to field in 2026, you can absolutely say is more talented than the team that just won on paper.
If you go by ratings, remember this year's the team that just won the national title was 72nd by 247 rankings by the roster, and they were 18th. Deadline worse than Purdue. Their talent is worse than Purdue according to the rankings. Think about that for a second. And I don't know what they'll be. I don't know if they've done it yet. Probably because the rosters aren't completely done. I mean, they're pretty
Right.
close for the most part. But I will be shocked if they're anywhere close to 72. I'm not saying they're going to be top 20, but I would guess they'll move up substantially.
As exciting as that is for Indiana fans, it should be horrifying for the rest of college football.
Absolutely, yeah.
Agreed. And also, what we would like to do next time is I want to do a deep dive on our 42-year-old punter. So you need to get as much information as you can on him.
We want to know about his kids. We want to know about his grandkids.
Yeah.
Well, he had his own barbershop in Australia.
Yes,
Come on.
I heard that. Yes.
No, he did. He had his own barbershop in Australia. I'm not joking.
He's had a whole adult life already. It's incredible.
It is not often that you have a small business owner as your punter.
The guy for USC last night, that Baker Mazzara, I think he's drawing Social Security.
Yeah. Well, he's going to need to draw Medicare after the injury that he suffered yesterday.
Yeah, I saw that. I actually felt bad for him. But the guy just turned 26.
26.
Like, that's nuts. I know. Like, what's nuts?
It's absolutely nuts. All right. Thanks so much for doing this last minute for us. Love talking to you about football, and we'll see you soon.
Okay. See you guys.
That was a guest. That was a guest.
I'll say the same thing that they said that we've said about recruits talking about our new strength and conditioning coach, Matt Weaver, stud.
Love the guy. Love that he has suffered through the muck and the mire as much as anybody, as much as Don Fisher or anybody else for the last few decades, and that he's just okay.
Through the muck and the mire, now ready to fuck with fire.
Well,
you should cut that out. You should cut that out.
I won't, but you miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
And I miss 100% of the ones I do take. Follow us on Twitter at Hoosier Hysterics for the Hysterics. No E.
No I.
But the
sometimes Y. And on YouTube with all the letters.
All of
them? We've got all the letters on YouTube.
Subscribe to the channel. We'll put up more video there too. Take care.
Indiana, our Indiana, Indiana, we're all for you. We will fight for the cream and crimson, for the glory of old IU. Never daunted, we cannot falter in the battle, oh, we're tried and true. Indiana,